talking shit again. Fucking he gonna beat me, I'm garbage and all that bullshit. Adrien, you a fucking clown, first off. Nobody take you serious in the boxing world. You shit water. You call me garbage while you below me, you shit water. And you ain't won a fight since Adrien Broner. And bitch, you barely won that. Look, talking all that shit, I'm gonna take care of my business first, what I gotta do. Then bitch, I wanna see you. Don't talk about you about to retire and all that shit, you want a brick and all that. No, bitch, you call me out, I want my round first.
Regis Prograis is very much fired up over some recent comments from Adrien Broner.
Him again?
Adrien Broner saying this and that about Regis. Adrien Broner saying this and that about Jose Ramirez. Two fighters who, in all honesty,
would murder him.
I think would beat the fucking daylights out of Adrien Broner. I do not consider Adrien Broner an elite level fighter, athlete, or a competitor of any kind. I don't.
Sorry.
Because for all the shit he says to build up a fight, he does anything but compete. He does anything but perform. I mean, that's what an athlete does. That's what a competitor does.
That's what they do.
A competitor competes and an athlete performs. Whereas in the case of Adrien Broner, he's more synonymous with being non-competitive and underperforming. In many ways, this guy is barely a boxer. He's a non-factor to any weight class that he's in. Adrien Broner does not stand a chance against anyone in the welterweight division or the light welterweight division.
Zero.
He don't stand a chance against none of those guys. Put him in there with Jose Ramirez, and I promise you, Jose Ramirez will beat this man within an inch of his life, because Adrien Broner is not a boxer. He's a parody of a boxer. More specifically, he's a parody of Floyd Mayweather, who he's tried to emulate for many, many years at the sacrifice, at the cost of his own career. Because instead of being his own man, trying to be his own man, perfecting his own craft instead of trying to imitate someone else's,
Trying to be like Big Bro.
this guy's more happy to do the WWE thing. Oh, I'm going to be a shit talker. I'm going to play the heel. I'm going to talk up the fight, but when the bell actually rings, I'm not going to fucking do nothing. I'm going to get punched in my face and shake my head and act like it didn't happen.
Even that shit ain't original.
Even that shit is just another episode of Adrien Broner trying to be a store brand Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, in all honesty, that's who he gets it from. That's what he's trying to do. That's who he's trying to look like when he does that shit. I mean, did we forget how many years Adrien Broner spent sniffing Floyd's ass?
That's what big brothers are for.
Calling him Big Bro.
My big brothers are really
Trying to be Baby Floyd when he's more like Walmart brand Floyd. Did we forget? Adrien Broner's a joke, man. I mean, I know, look, this is spectator sport, right? And I'm just a spectator. I'm just watching the stories unfold.
That's all I'm doing.
But as a spectator, all I can really do is be honest about what I'm looking at and what I'm hearing. And if I'm gonna be completely honest, Adrien Broner's a fucking joke. He's a non-factor. Wherever he goes, he is not a threat to any elite level prize fighter in the sport of pugilism. He's not.
Nope.
He's not a threat to anybody at 147.
Nope.
Or 140.
Nope.
And if by some chance he could cut down to 135, you know what? He'd be a non-factor down there too. Adrien Broner's not a threat to nobody. He's a cartoon character. He's a parody. I don't consider Adrien Broner a boxer, to be completely honest. I mean, I literally do not think of him as being in that spectrum, and when his name gets brought up in these conversations with the likes of a Regis Prograis, fantastic fighter, has his whole career ahead of him, bright future. Same applies to Jose Ramirez. When I see the name of Adrien Broner tacked on to the names of these other fighters, these other distinguished professionals, it's almost irritating, because I don't consider Adrien Broner a boxer. When this guy goes into camp, he's going into camp for little more than making weight.
That's all.
That's it. But as far as, fighting to win, training to perform, he does anything but. This guy is not a boxer. Adrien Broner don't get paid to win fights. He gets paid to build them up.
Then lose.
Same week he takes shots at Regis, same week he takes shots at Jose is the exact same week that he announces his retirement via Instagram. I'm not lying, he retired earlier this week.
About time!
Only so he could subsequently unretire, let the world know he's done at 144, because if that's a fucking weight class, you're done campaigning at 144, and what is that? Super Broner weight? What is that? You're going down to 40 to do what? To get beat up by those guys? Because that's what's going to happen. Go ahead. Go fight Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez is a stylistic nightmare for Adrien Broner. Why? Jose Ramirez is aggressive and he lets his hands go, whereas Adrien Broner does not.
Shoulder roller Mac.
This is the underperforming I'm talking about. That they're not paying you to just go in there, get punched in your face and shake your head, or to just talk shit at press conferences. They're not paying you just for that. You got to try to win this thing. And yeah, put Adrien Broner in there with Jose Ramirez.
Do it!
Go ahead, do it.
Do it!
Put him in there with Regis Prograis. Put him in there with those guys. Those guys got belts, right? Adrien Broner says he's going to go down to 40. I don't know to do what. But go ahead, get in the ring with those guys. Those two guys would beat Adrien Broner within an inch of his life. I have no doubts about that. No doubts. I mean, none. Zero. Because Adrien Broner is not a boxer, whereas those guys are. Those guys don't go into camp for the simple fact of making weight. You know, it's a difference. Those guys go into camp, they're preparing to win or try to win. Whereas Adrien Broner goes into camp just to try to make the weight. That's about it. You put him in the ring, he's not going to do nothing.
Nothing!
For this reason, I don't consider that guy a boxer. I consider him an unentertaining entertainer. He's unentertaining, but he's attempting to entertain.
With WWE stuff.
In trying to emulate someone who he idolizes, but also someone who he's not worthy to carry their spit bucket. I'm talking about Floyd Mayweather. Say what you want about Floyd Mayweather. He played the heel himself, but the difference is Mayweather got the job done consistently at the highest level. Don't confuse the antics that go into building a fight for this guy's work ethic and resolve as an athlete, because that is very much what Floyd Mayweather has been. He has been an athlete focused on performing, okay? Now it seems that Adrien Broner wants to emulate this guy, but not the important parts. You could emulate this guy's work ethic, his professionalism,
That stuff.
in terms of, staying fit and getting the job done and what goes into trying to get the job done. But Adrien Broner can't hack it because Adrien Broner's a wannabe. Like a lot of guys are wannabes. The guy's a fucking wannabe. And there's no shortage of wannabes over there on the PBC side of the street, trying to take shots at other fighters that may be with other outfits that are building their own names, because that's why I think Adrien Broner said Jose and Regis's names. He sees that people are talking about them right now, and what Adrien himself has amounted to is not very much. You got a lot of money, he did get a lot of money doing what he did, and that's cool. But what you'll never have is respect. Nobody respects this guy. Nobody looks at this guy as an athlete. When the sun sets on this guy's career, nobody's gonna look back on that shit in awe and wonder. Adrien Broner is not a boxer. He has not been a boxer for a very long time. So when I see Regis and Jose reacting and responding to things Adrien Broner may have said earlier this week, I'm thinking to myself, at what point does the sport of boxing as a whole stop entertaining Adrien Broner as any kind of an athlete? At what point does that happen? Because it really needs to. It really should. Adrien Broner is better suited to perform in the ring of a WWE card as opposed to the ring of a boxing match. He's better suited to be over there with Vince and Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, Kane, all those guys. That's where Adrien Broner belongs, in a scripted environment, because this guy's more of an actor than he is an athlete.
A bad actor.
When is Adrien Broner gonna call it a career? I've been waiting for that shit for a long time, because I know that he's amounted to whatever he's going to amount to. He's not going to be more than that. Okay? Just wondering. He retired earlier this week, and I was hoping that he was actually being serious so that he could just get the fuck out of here. We don't gotta look at this guy. We don't gotta hear this guy. We don't gotta deal with this guy, because he's not a boxer. People need to stop treating him like he's a boxer. He's not a fucking boxer. He's a performer. He's an asshole. He's an idiot. He's a man-child. He's a train wreck. He's bipolar. But what he's not is a boxer. Now, you know who is a boxer? The voluptuous and sensational Marisela Cornejo posted this on Instagram, and she's looking very lean, very svelte, very cut. And it would appear that she intends to make a move to the middleweight and junior middleweight divisions. She's formerly campaigning as a super middleweight up there at 168. Very generous dimensions, Marisela Cornejo. She's very statuesque. Lots of room to fill out for a weight class, but it does appear that she is moving down. What do I think about that? I think that's the right move. I think that's the way to go. Here's why. Clarissa Shields is effectively moving down in weight. Her very next fight is going to be at junior middleweight, in contention for what is the vacant WBO title at junior middleweight. That's basically saying that all those belts that she won in the Christina Hammer fight, she's going to come up out of those belts. Those belts are going to be free for other fighters to campaign for, to contend against other fighters. Essentially, the middleweight division has been blown wide open. It's now more feasible for a fighter to become a world champion when the authority of the weight has left the weight class. So you think about that. The IBF, the WBA, the WBO, the WBC, all those belts are going to be up for grabs very soon. So fighters like Raquel Miller, fighters like Marisela Cornejo, even Christina Hammer, the former unified champion, stands a very good chance of picking up a belt in the near future. And I think that Marisela has the right idea here. This is an opportunity. I mean, it really is. If you're going to call it what it is, that's what it is. It's an opportunity. I would very much like to see Marisela Cornejo swap punches with the likes of those fighters, with the likes of a Raquel Miller, with the likes of a Christina Hammer, for what could be the vacant titles at that weight. Now, when it comes to fighters moving down in weight, male or female, when it comes to fighters moving down in weight, there are perils to be associated, to be addressed with such a move, similar to how there are perils to be addressed when it comes to moving up in weight. There's jeopardy on both ends of the spectrum, and the peril associated with moving down in weight is at what cost does it come to the fighter's ability to perform making the weight? You understand that? Has it been a long time since the fighter fought at this lower weight? How do they arrive there? How old are they? What strain is this putting on the fighter's body, cutting the weight? That's the peril. In the case of Marisela Cornejo, I think that she'll arrive at middleweight just fine. She's a young girl, This ain't a girl that's in her mid-30s or, pushing 40, nothing like that. She's young enough to where she can make such a descent from 168 to 160 and have minimal consequences. If anything, I think it might be beneficial in areas of power, performance,
Stamina.
I think that she will have a more respectable punch as a middleweight rather than a super middleweight. Just as well, I think the climb downstairs will loosen her up a bit, add something to her athleticism, her mobility, her fluidity. I think it could be beneficial for Marisela Cornejo to make that move. And let's be honest, the talent pool at
168
super middleweight, it's really thin. I mean, and it's not these girls' fault. It really isn't. It's just not. But there aren't a lot of names to go around in the super middleweight division. So if you're looking for interesting situations, you're looking for matchups that'll grab people's attention, the lower you go, the better your odds. At middleweight, you have Raquel Miller, you have Christina Hammer. If you go a little lower, you got any variety of champions to choose from, because not only is Clarissa Shields going to be down there, but there is also Hannah Gabriels, Eva Pietzkowska, Marie-Eve Decoeur, you understand? There's also Ina Sagaidakovskaya. There are more names to go around in the junior middleweight and middleweight divisions than there are in the super middleweight division. So, for Marisela, she may find it a bit easier to find opponents, have opponent options as a middleweight rather than a super middleweight, or as a junior middleweight rather than a middleweight, because in women's boxing, the lower you go, the deeper the talent pool. I'll tell you the truth that I think that Marisela Cornejo has the right idea. I mean, I really think she does. And I think that, the champions upstairs, Franchon Cruz, the WBC champion, Alicia Napoleon, the WBA champion, and Eileen Cedar-Ruz, the IBF champion, I honestly think that they should contemplate making such a move as well. They may find that they've got an easier time finding opponent options down there at middleweights instead of super middleweights. The super middleweight division, it's got 1, 2, or 3 good fighters in it, but the vast majority of the weight class is a ghost town. Okay, those girls, they need challengers. They need someone to defend those belts against. I think they'd have an easier time doing that as middleweights. Just imagine if the middleweight division were comprised of Franchon Cruz, Alicia Napoleon, Eileen Cedar-Ruz, Marisela Cornejo, Raquel Miller, Christina Hammer, Tori Nelson, Callie Reese. If Ina Sagaidakovskaya moves up from 154 to 160, there's another name. I mean, it could be a loaded, a fully stacked division if these girls all converge at the same time. And I honestly think that's what they all should do. They need each other. It's not enough to hold the belt. You need opponents to defend it against. So I'm hoping that the other girls up there at super middleweight, they give it some consideration. Moving down to middleweight and contesting for what titles become vacant as a result of Clarissa leaving the weight. And finally, Team Pacquiao had this to say. They say they have no interest in staging either Keith Thurman or Jeff Horn rematches. You see, in the last couple of days, Keith Thurman has resurfaced, and now what he's saying is that he doesn't view the fight as a loss for him. He views the fight as a draw, and he wants to have a rematch with Manny, to where Team Pacquiao, via Sean Gibbons, the president of Manny Pacquiao's company, Sean Gibbons is saying Keith Thurman had his shot. It's over, and they're not interested. Now, who they are interested in fighting, the potential opponent options for Manny Pacquiao are limited to either Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, or Floyd Mayweather. Floyd, who still isn't showing any interest in doing the dance again. But the other two opponent options are actually viable options, yes. I think either Danny Garcia or Mikey Garcia would jump at the chance to swap punches with Manny Pacquiao, especially seeing how good this last pay-per-view did. I'm fairly certain that while there might have been rumblings the last couple of weeks about Mikey Garcia maybe going to Top Rank or Mikey Garcia maybe going over there to DAZN in Matchroom, while there might have been those kinds of rumblings the last couple of weeks, he could very quickly change his mind and stay on the PBC side of the street if he can land a Pacquiao fight. Oh yeah, he might sit tight, he might stay right there if he can get that fight.
That's entirely possible.
What is interesting about it, however, is I didn't see the name of Errol Spence or Sean Porter. I didn't see them name the winner of that fight as a potential opponent option, yet I have no doubts that those two guys, Sean, Errol, they'd like a Pacquiao fight, that if they were to win, you know, if Sean were to win or if Errol were to win, regardless of who the winner is, either one would like a Pacquiao fight, yet they weren't mentioned by Sean Gibbons. So, let's hypothesize. What effect would that have on, let's say, I don't know, Errol Spence's plans? If he does unify with Sean, he gets 2 belts, what's it do to his plans if he's not on Manny Pacquiao's radar? Where does he go from that? Do you think that that would make him a bit more keen on finally unifying with Terrence Crawford? There are only 3 champions at the weight, and if one of them doesn't want to unify with Errol, there's still the other one. Does that bring us closer to that fight? And I dare say no. No, it doesn't. I'd sooner expect Errol Spence to either square off against Yordenis Ugas, who we just saw in action not too long ago on the undercard for Pacquiao versus Thurman, or I would sooner expect Errol Spence to square off against Danny Garcia, as unlikely as that sounds. I'd sooner expect Errol to swap punches with Danny before I'd expect him to swap punches with Crawford. I don't think he's ready to risk it all against the real boogeyman of the welterweight division. The look of it is that PBC will not risk Errol fighting against Terrence Crawford when he still has other opponent options on that same side of the street. So they would sooner go that route, take that avenue, even if they can't orchestrate a unification fight for Errol against Manny. They will just match him against what else they've got at the weight. That could be Ugas, that could be Garcia. Fuck around, that could be Keith Thurman if Keith Thurman finds his balls. But better still, I don't think that Manny passing on Errol or Sean brings us closer to either one of them fighting Terrence.